Happy New Year, guys. 2020 is already upon us. It's insane how fast time goes. And as always, we have another year full of films to look forward to. And as the title of the video would suggest, these are my most anticipated films of 2020. Not as many giant films this year. No Avengers film, no Star Wars film, which means my top two spots aren't going to be automatically taken by an Avengers or a Star Wars film for a change. But there's still plenty of films I'm looking forward to this year, and I'm just going to list my top 10 most anticipated like anyone else would do. But first, I got some honourable mentions, films that just did not quite make the top 10. Free Guy, the new film with Ryan Reynolds playing an NPC in an open world online game, looks really fun and potentially really funny. The Trial of the Chicago 7 is the next film being written and I believe directed by Aaron Sorkin. Anything with his name attached, I want to watch it. Raya and the Last Dragon, the next film from Walt Disney Studios Animations, the team that brought us Moana, Zootopia and Frozen, so give me the next one of those. The French Dispatch, the next film from Wes Anderson, again, his name's attached, I want to watch it. And finally, Mulan, the next live-action Disney adaptation. I've liked most of the live-action Disney adaptations of the past couple of years, and this one looks really interesting with its Chinese kind of samurai aesthetic. Those are my honourable mentions mentioned. Let's get into the top 10. Coming in at number 10, West Side Story. Now, quite a few of the films on this top 10 list I'm looking forward to mainly because of the director, amongst other things. And that's the case with West Side Story because it's the next film from Steven Spielberg. And why anybody would not be excited for the next Steven Spielberg film, one of the greatest directors of all time, I have no idea. Plus, it's also a musical. I don't know what the story of West Side Story is, I'm just not educated on that. But a musical from Steven Spielberg? Hell yeah, I'm interested. I've become much more of a musical fan recently. Coming in at number 9 is The Eternals, one of the next films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's why I'm excited for it. But in terms of the actual premise and what the film's about, it sounds really interesting and really different from Marvel. Apparently the story is going to span, I believe, like 35,000 years or something like that. And it's about a race of immortal beings who are protecting humanity, and you have Kit Harington in there and a really great cast as well. What's not to look forward to? Coming in at number 8 is Dune, the next film from Denis Villeneuve. I have never read the Dune book, so I have no idea what Dune's about. I just know that it's a sci-fi film with some crazy concepts in it, and I read a quote from somebody involved with the film, I can't remember who it was, saying that it was pretty much Star Wars for adults. You tell me that film's coming from the director of Arrival, Blade Runner 2049 and Prisoners. I want to see that film like right now. Number 7, Onward, the next film from Pixar, and that's all I need to say. Which I've said that for pretty much every film on this list so far, but it's kind of self-explanatory why I'm looking forward to all these films given who's behind them. But yeah, as for Onward, it looks like yet another really interesting premise from Pixar, with it being a modern world with planes, cars, and all sorts of modern day technology, but it's inhabited by fantasy creatures, elves, dragons, wizards, fairies, and whatnot. That looks interesting, but it also looks like a touching story with two brothers trying to reconnect with their deceased dad. They have Tom Holland and Chris Pratt as the voices of the brothers. Say no more, I'm going to be there in March when it comes out. Coming in at number 6, Wonder Woman 1984. Quite simply, it's the sequel to what I still believe is the best DCEU film so far. So on that basic level, I'm excited for it. But also, I do like the Wonder Woman character. I love her earnestness. I like Gal Gadot as the character. Patty Jenkins is back directing. Chris Pine is back somehow. You've got an awesome looking 80s setting. That first trailer was really 80s. I loved it. Yeah, it's all looking good. I'm really down for a great summer superhero film, and Wonder Woman 1984 looks like it's going to be exactly that. But just beating out Wonder Woman as my most anticipated female-led comic book film of 2020 is number 5, and that's Black Widow. Simply because I'm more on board with the MCU than the DCEU. The DCEU has had a lot of disappointments where the MCU really hasn't for me. And also, Black Widow. She's a character that has been talked about having a standalone film for a while, and yeah, the timing of this film is a little odd given her demise in Endgame, but in either case, I'm excited to see how she handles her own standalone film, and that trailer that came out looks like we're getting back to that Winter Soldier kind of spy thriller vibe. And you've also got a great cast in there with obviously Scarlett Johansson, but also Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour. So far, it's looking good, and given its placement on the list, and given there's no more comic book films after this, it's my most anticipated comic book film of 2020. Coming in at number 4 is Last Night in Soho, the next film from Edgar Wright. Again, need I say anything more after that? But it's a psychological horror film, which is very interesting because Edgar Wright's films so far have been mostly comedies. And I don't know how comedic this film's going to be. I imagine there's going to be comedy in it, but is it full-fledged horror comedy or is it full-fledged horror? Either way, I'm excited to see it because Edgar Wright has not disappointed me yet. I have loved almost all of his films so far, and I'm just excited to see what he does next, especially if it's going full horror. And also the cast that he's got in here is pretty good with Anya Taylor-Joy. You've also got Matt Smith and also Thomasin McKenzie, who I just saw yesterday in Jojo Rabbit, and I want to see more of her because she's really damn good. Yeah, I'm excited for Last Night in Soho, hence why it's number 4 on my most anticipated 2020 list, obviously. Coming in at number 3 is the other film from Pixar this year, Soul. Now, I've ranked this higher than Onward because of Pete Docter. He's directing this film and he did Monsters, Inc., Up, and Inside Out. 3 of my favourite Pixar films, but also, in terms of Up and Inside Out, 2 of the most emotional Pixar films and 2 of the most emotional animated films and films in general that I've ever seen. And the premise of this film, the existential kind of plot that he's written up for this one, just sounds like classic Pete Docter Pixar, emotionally wrenching, devastating kind of premise. On paper, this has the makings of a new Pixar classic. Plus, the main character, played by Jamie Foxx, is a jazz teacher or a jazz musician. I love jazz. And you tell me that a new Pixar film with a premise like this and a potentially emotionally devastating premise like this has jazz music in it? Sold. Okay, we're coming to the top 2 now, and I was flipping these 2 films back and forth so much I couldn't decide which one was number 1 and number 2, but I finally come to a decision. Coming in at number 2, No Time to Die, the new James Bond film. I'm a big James Bond fan. In fact, I actually just got the James Bond Blu-ray collection for Christmas. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to start the binge real soon. All 24 films. I'm going to watch all of them leading up to No Time to Die, so I'm going to be quite ready for the film when it comes out on April 2nd. And yeah, it's James Bond. And despite Spectre being a disappointment for me, I'm looking forward to this nonetheless. Even whenever a new Bond film comes out and it's disappointing, I'm always excited for the next one because James Bond is one of those few franchises left that feels like an event when a new film comes out, because it's every literally few years that they bring a new film out. And also because Daniel Craig is my favourite James Bond. And thankfully, he didn't end it on Spectre. And No Time to Die, I'm hoping Daniel Craig goes out on a high note. I like the trailer that came out. You have Rami Malek as the villain. The premise sounds interesting. Just because it's Bond, that's why it's number 2. I'm really excited for it, and I'll always be excited for a new Bond film no matter what. Now we come to my number 1 pick, and this is going to be super predictable because everybody's excited for this film, and so many people have it as their number 1 most anticipated of the year. So do I. It's Tenet. Why is that, I hear you ask? Which nobody's asking because everybody already knows. It's because it's Christopher freaking Nolan, and this guy is one of the best directors working today. He's incredible, and this film looks intriguing as hell. That trailer, I watched that trailer quite a few times the day it came out because I was just trying to wrap my head around what the whole thing was. Not in terms of confusion, but in terms of just intrigue. Pure, unadulterated intrigue. And that's what Christopher Nolan excels at. This trailer, in terms of the mind-bending kind of premise, and also the vibe of the tone of it, it reminded me of Inception. And Inception has grown to become one of my favourite films of the last number of years. And I have a feeling, I just have that tingle inside of me that this film is going to give me that same Inception kind of thing, where it's going to be such an unbelievably brilliantly thought out premise and incredibly well executed. I hope it is anyway. I mean, there's all the difference in the world between potential and reality, but given that it's Christopher Nolan, I think the benefit of the doubt is like something that is instantly given by everybody. And yeah, just Tenet, give me this film. It's coming out in the summer. The cast is great as well. John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Kenneth Branagh, Michael Caine, and yet another Christopher Nolan film. Yeah, there's just nothing about this film that concerns me in the slightest. I cannot wait to see it. Give me this damn film already, please. So those are my most anticipated films of 2020. Hopefully they all live up to the hype. And my obvious question is, what are your most anticipated films of the year? Give me a top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20, whatever. Just let me know your most anticipated films of the year down there. And if you want to see more of my stuff, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.